All right, superstars. We're going to be looking at multiplying and dividing fractions today. So this is actually the easier of the two concepts with your fractions. The add subtract is actually a little bit more difficult. Multiply, divide, students are more successful. And the reason is, again, is because we're really just going to focus on the same integer rules. So fractions and integers share the same rules. Multiplying, dividing, again, remember, same sign, positive answer, different sign, and negative answer. So when we look at our fraction problems, we're really concentrating on cross-canceling. So let's go ahead and let's see if I can remember. Let's circle the problem we're going to do. Nice. And then really, again, we're practicing some mental division, which is in the form of cross-canceling. Now, if you were to multiply and divide or multiply and reduce, you can find the exact same result, but cross-canceling is one of those steps to really speed things up. So again, when we get to our problems that are a lot more complicated, we want to be able to go as quickly and efficiently as possible. So you may be thinking about, okay, cross-canceling again, that's looking at 2 and 5. Obviously, those cannot be made into smaller numbers, but 3 and 6 can. So remember, the process is what can they both be divided by, and then what do they become? So we know that 3 and 6 can both be divided by a simple 3. So that means our 3 becomes a 1, and our 6 becomes a 2. Now, for whatever reason, some students think about it incorrectly. Even though they are trying to think about cross-canceling, which is a form of division, for some reason they actually do subtraction. So that means instead of a 6 here, they would accidentally put a 3. Or maybe they were thinking about dividing by 2, but remember, 3 can't divide by 2 efficiently to nice whole numbers, integers here. So we are good. All right, so last thing we're going to do is clean it up. We've already done the reducing through our cross-canceling, so I'm just going to finish up with our multiplication. Now, we already knew that because we had two positive fractions, that our answer was going to be a positive fraction as well. So we have 2 times 2 is 4, and 1 times 5 is 5. What we have here, again, is a proper fraction, 4/5. And then what we may do later on, not right now, but later on, is practicing how we change it into a decimal. Because remember, in 7th grade, maybe even earlier in 6th grade, you talked about fractions converting between fractions and decimals, and then even percentages and so on. 8th grade, though, we prefer the fraction answer for the majority of our actual answers. The only time that occasionally we'll take a decimal or maybe even a mixed number is usually when we're talking about a word problem. But here, 4/5, satisfactory. All right, gonna circle. So we maybe see this right away. Well, this is some of the form of the easiest cross-canceling when they are the exact same digit, 5 and 5. Again, I'm just going to go ahead and turn them into little ones because 5 and 5 can both be divided by 5. Now, again, the same idea here. Students, for some reason, confuse the 2 and the 6 with like the 3 and the 6. So 2 and 6 are both even numbers, so they can both be divided by 2. So some of you may have already seen that. 2 becomes a 1, and our 6 divided by 2 is 3. Clean it up, equal sign. So again, this is the work that we are looking for, not just our answer. 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 1 is 3. So we've got 1/3. Again, remember, that's our preferred answer for 8th grade. All right, we've got division, division, multiplication, and division. All right, so what happened? There it is. All right, you might remember this from 7th grade. Now remember, whenever you have fractions that are dividing, we don't do that. We don't like dividing fractions. We use our rule, keep, change, reciprocal. So in 7th grade last year, you should have seen keep, change, reciprocal. And again, that refers to our first fraction. We're going to keep it the same. So that means underneath it, go ahead and write it, keep it the same. Change. Change is referring to our division sign. We're going to change that to multiplication. You can put a little dot, or if you'd like to, you can use your parentheses. Because remember, parentheses means multiplication. And then finally, the last one, are reciprocal. Now remember, we don't call it the flip, we call it the reciprocal. So 3 over 2 now officially becomes 2 over 3, or 2/3. We had positive numbers there again, so we know it's going to be a positive fraction. I'm going to give you a moment to go ahead and try your cross-canceling. So you're going to stop looking at me, look at your paper, go ahead and do your cross-canceling. Now remember, it doesn't really matter where you start. You can start with the 2 and the 4 or the 3 and the 9. Eventually, you can look at both of them, though. So I'm actually going to start at the 2 and the 4. Now, sometimes it is helpful if we change colors. So the 2 becomes a 1. The 4 becomes a 2. Ooh, look how nice and bright that is. 3 and 9, they can both be divided by 3. So 3 becomes a 1. 9 becomes a 3. Because 9 divided by 3 is 3. Equal sign, fraction line. 3 times 1 is 3. 2 times 1 is 2. Now remember, I've already reduced it in my process of doing cross-canceling. And in 8th grade, I told you we prefer the fractional answer. So we're going to leave it as 3 over 2. That's the answer that we want. However, I'd like you to think again, what is the mixed number? It's not required to write down, but maybe you're thinking about it. I always like to think about it as cookies again. 3 friends. Or actually, sorry, 3 cookies for 2 friends. 3 cookies for 2 friends. It'd be 1.5 cookies, right? So it means the 2 friends can split that 3rd cookie, so 1.5. But again, 8th grade, we're going to keep it as an improper fraction. All right, let's try the same thing on number 8. Now remember, circle it. And if you want to put that little code, keep, change, reciprocal to help you out. Keep 4/5. Change, now some of you may like the dot better, so you can just put the little dot there. And then reciprocal. 2 over 5 now becomes 5 over 2. Just don't put an X for multiplication, please. All right, very similar. Cross-canceling. 2 becomes a 1. 4 becomes a 2. 5s are identical digits, so really just simple ones. Equal sign. Fraction line. 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1, but we're going to simplify it to just have an answer of 2. Now, later on in the year when we're talking about slopes, 2 over 1 is an appropriate answer, but right now, since we're just simplifying fractions, 2 is what we desire. All right, I think we got one more. Yes. Okay, so as I tried presenting to you, instead of looking at the whole problem and getting overwhelmed, we can go ahead and break it up into parts. So for example, one strategy is you can just do this part here, and then bring back in the other one. Some students say, well, Mr. Murillo, I like to look at the whole thing. I don't get overwhelmed. I'm going to go ahead and use the keep, change, reciprocal on my division portion here, and then I'm going to be able to look at everything for my cross-canceling. By all means, whatever you think is best for you, let's go ahead and try that. So we might try a few strategies here to help you out. So the first suggestion, remember, was to just look at this portion. Threes are identical. 2 and 8 can be divided by 2, so that means 2 becomes a 1 and 8 becomes a 4. I'm just going to put it right here because remember I have a second portion, and let's change that to a dot, not an X. Circle, come on, Miss Maria. All right, 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 4 is 4. So that means the first portion of that problem becomes 1/4. Now I'm going to go ahead and move that card, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the keep, change, reciprocal. So remember, keep it, change to multiplication, and then reciprocal. 56 over 7. All right, now that I have this, you may be thinking, well, I can't cross-cancel 1 and 7. Can I cross-cancel 4 and 56? So it means if you don't know, you get to go to the side and do your elementary division. Because really that's what you're asking. Now remember, it isn't even, so it can be divided by 2, but we're trying to see if it can be divided by 4, which is going to make it a little bit easier for us. So 4 and 5, that works. So I got a 1. 4 times 1 is 4. Put a 0 there. Subtract. 4 and 16 works. Beautiful. So it means if I cross cancel, the 4 becomes a 1 and the 56 becomes a 14. Now some students may say, well, Mr. Murillo, then if I continue on, my answer is going to be 14 over 7. And I say, no, it's not, because we know that 14 divided by 7 is 2. All right, so that's one strategy. Let's go ahead and clean it up, and I'll show you this. Show you the second strategy. All right, so as some of you may have noticed, again, if you do keep change reciprocal at the beginning, which means I'm going to actually keep 2/3. Let's clean that up again. And I'm going to keep 3/8. And I'm going to change division to multiplication. And I'm going to take the reciprocal of my second. So 56 over 7. So it's a little bit easier for me when it's presented this way, because I know that I can go ahead and cross cancel with my given numbers just a little bit easier. So for example, 3s obviously become little 1s. And then from elementary school, we know that 56 and 8 can both be divided by 8, because 8 divided by 8 is 1, and 56 divided by 8 is 7. And looking right here, 7 divided by 7, that's really just a 1 whole, so it means my answer is definitely 2. So some students even just change it right here, because 7 divided by 7 is basic division. Whatever's left over is my answer. I think that might be a little bit easier strategy, but again, some students may get overwhelmed looking at the whole problem in that form. All right, so if you notice, we weren't struggling too much with our signs. Everything was positive. On your assignment, you might have some negative signs thrown in. So if that's the case, remember, you're just going to use your rules. Same sign, positive answer, different sign, negative answer. So your goal, again, is to go ahead and complete your multiplication and division fractions worksheet and then post it online. All right, be awesome.